The next hack that I want to talk to you about is shoes for performance. So originally, all right, not going to get into talk of creation obviously, but when we were not created to wear tennis shoes, all right? That was not the original setup. We weren't supposed to have them on, all right? But because of everywhere that we walk and everything on, and we want to be able to protect our feet, we obviously have to wear them. Here's the thing, whenever it comes to your feet and proprioception, we talked a little bit earlier about the basics of neurology, and one of the three main aspects is input. All right, we have more pressure sensors on the bottom of our feet than we do anywhere else in our body because our feet are constantly in contact with the ground. Now, whenever we wear a really thick soled shoe, one that kind of goes all the way across, we lose a lot of that proprioception, a lot of that feedback, a lot of that input that comes from the ground because our feet aren't touching the floor directly and because we lose a lot of the movement. So because of that, whenever, again, I talked earlier about input into the brain, we don't get the proper input that we need. So it's very important that on a regular basis, we are, well, one, barefoot as much as possible, but also that we are wearing what's called a minimalist shoe. So before getting into the details of a minimalist shoe, I want to explain a little bit that it's similar to wearing a cast. So if you go to a doctor or a sling, so you go to a doctor and he puts your arm in a sling, and you have to hold your right arm in this sling for 6 to 8 weeks. All right, and then 6 to 8 weeks later, you're able to take your arm out. Do you think your arm is going to move as well? It's going to be as mobile as what it was before the sling? Do you think it's going to be as strong as it was before the sling? Probably not. So we have to think about whenever we wear these really tight and hard shoes, dress shoes, work boots, whatever it is that we wear on a regular basis, it's the same thing as essentially putting a cast around our foot all day long. So we end up losing a lot of that proprioceptive feedback and that input that we need on a regular basis. So the minimalist shoe is really what we need in order to get that good input. So whenever you're looking for shoes, a couple of things that are important. The shoe should ideally do two different things. It should bend and curl as much as possible all the way around. We want lots of good flexibility throughout the sole of the shoe, and you should be able to also twist it in multiple different directions, all right? It should almost feel like you're not wearing a shoe, more like you're wearing a sock, all right? So we want lots of mobility as much as we possibly can. All right, this is going to play over quite a bit into the gym and general strength as well. So we want to be able to use a minimalist shoe, or preferably, if your gym allows it, to be able to work out barefoot if you can. You're going to get the good feedback, again, that you need, the good input from the ground, which is actually going to give you better posture, and it's going to give you more strength and more stability as well. Now, here's the thing. Whenever it comes to switching shoes, I'm not advocating that if you've been wearing an orthotic, that all of a sudden you need to start going around barefoot or wearing a minimalist shoe and doing that everywhere that you go. For most people, it tends to be more of a transition. So whenever you have been wearing an orthotic type shoe or you wear boots all the time, our brains are extremely smart and they have adapted to you wearing that type of shoe. So if you try to move directly into a minimalist shoe, it can end up causing you some pain. So you need to make sure that based on what you've been wearing, it may need to be a little bit slower of a transition. So the first thing you can do is start just trying to walk more barefoot around the house in general. Or if you've been wearing an orthotic, you might try to wear an orthotic for part of the day and then take part of the orthotic out, use a little bit less of it for the rest of the day. So just kind of slowly easing your way into being able to wear minimalist shoes so that you don't cause pain as you're trying to work through all these things. Now, I'm also into powerlifting as well. So if you have kind of a wide stance or sumo deadlift or wide stance squat, arguments can be made that minimalist shoes aren't the best for that. Not going to get into that discussion at this point. The main focus right now is just in general for the majority of exercise out there. If you're about a hip width or shoulder width squatter, deadlifter, exercising along those ways, that your minimalist shoe is the best. Ideally, barefoot altogether if your gym where you work out does allow it.